Welcome to another episode of Channel 6 Scoreboard Summer Edition. I'm Kelsey Williams and I'm joined by Greg Courtney and Andy Robertson, and for the next half an hour we're going to talk about Bears basketball. So guys, prior to the season even starting, the Bears looked like they were going to have a really good season after they lost Coach Williamson, who moved to the Sacramento Kings. Were you surprised by this?
At first I was, but when I really thought about it, I wasn't. I mean, he had no previous ties to UCA, and he spent 8 of his 12-year NBA career with the Kings, so it wasn't really surprising. I feel like UCA was more of a stepping stone for him in order to move farther in his coaching career. He just didn't. I don't feel like he really brought anything to UCA to help his coaching career.
I would say I was more relieved than surprised. I say this because he went 26-62 in 3 seasons as head coach, and with only one Southland Conference tournament game. So I say I was relieved, and he didn't really bring anything other than losses to our team, to our UCA team. So yeah, I would say I was more relieved.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have anything to prove at UCA, so there's not really any reason for him to stay around. Right.
I feel like this was just a stop in between jobs. So if he found a better job, he would take it in a heartbeat.
Move on straight away.
Right.
So in his 3 seasons at Central Arkansas, what do you think Coach Williamson did bring to UCA basketball?
I would say he brought knowledge of the NBA, maybe a fan base, because when you hear a name like Corliss Williamson, who was an NBA player, that gives us kind of some publicity with ESPN maybe, you know. So I believe he brought a lot of attention to our school, which is a good thing.
Yeah, this was something I thought about for a while. I couldn't really come up with a clear answer except for his name. I mean, he won the '94 championship with the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I mean that's big for the state of Arkansas. I mean, fans know that. And then I feel like he would have brought better recruits and his basketball knowledge. So it ended up not working out that way, and they didn't have a great run with him here.
Yeah, like I said, he did bring a lot of exposure from ESPN, but that didn't really go down well for us after our season. We didn't score many wins, so I don't think it was good publicity for UCA. But I mean, we've moved on now, so that's always good news. So we saw an increased level of talent each year that Coach Williamson was here. Why do you think that this didn't turn into success? Why do you think it didn't work?
I would blame it a lot on chemistry. Being that I say this because in the last few years, they showed they were close in games a lot of times, but towards the end they failed to come out with the win. And you could see players getting frustrated with other players at times, and I just felt like their chemistry was really bad over these last few years.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I also thought about the style of play. I mean, they played an up-tempo type of game with a lot of offense, and they didn't really play much defense. So I feel like that kind of kept them out of games late, and you know they just weren't able to score enough to win a lot of games.
So then Coach Finley was then named interim coach for the rest of the season, guiding the Bears to a 8-21 overall record and then a 5-13 in the SLC conference. How would you grade his season overall?
I'm not going to say he should win Southland Conference Coach of the Year, but I think he did an adequate job with what he was left with. I mean, all year he struggled to keep guys on the court with academics, and he lost like his best player early on to academics, and it was just tough to regain from that, let alone the rest of the team. So I don't think he did as bad a job as people say he did, but at the same time I feel like he could have done a little bit better.
I gave him a D+, and I say this because he took over a team that basically wasn't his, that he put together. So I feel like he just came in to, you know, kind of fill the void until they found a new coach. And one thing that stood out to me about this year was they were 1-13 on the road, and that's not acceptable for UCA fans. And I feel like he could have done a better job, you know, putting the chemistry into the team. As I said before, like there were times when they were beaten by 15+ points on multiple occasions, and there were 2 streaks of 5 or more games. So I feel like I gave him a D+ because he took over a team that wasn't his to start with.
Well, I think that coming in as a coach, as an interim coach, he didn't have the respect that a coach would have if he was coaching all season. And not only that, but I don't think he disciplined the players. I feel like some players might not have rocked up to training sometimes, and he just let things slide. And I think as a coach, you really need to discipline your players if you want to earn respect and you want to win games, because if you don't, you're not going to win games, and you are going to have a 1-13 on the road loss. So I definitely think that was a major issue for him. So LaQuinta Miles was ineligible for the first semester due to academics. What do you think this had with his win-loss, with UCA Bears win-loss ratio?
I don't think it caused a whole lot of problems with that. I mean, with him off the court, they were 3-9, which is about 25%, And with him on the court, they were 5-12, which is about 29. That's only a 4% increase. So I don't really feel like it was a big deal for him not to be on the court. He may have caused them to win a couple more games than what they would have, but I just don't see like a big factor in that. They had a tough non-conference schedule too. They played Arkansas State and Texas Tech and Louisiana Tech and Kansas State, who ended up going to the NCAA tournament. So I just feel like there's probably not much more he could have done.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. He carried the load when he came back. He averaged 23 points a game, 7 rebounds, but that wasn't enough to produce wins, and I don't feel like him being there kind of made a difference because they were, like you said, they were kind of still average, still at the same pace, I should say, and I don't think he really just brought anything other than his points to the team.
Well, I think when he was gone, McClure and Jackson really did step up for the team. But I think that they could have had a chance. I'm not going to disagree, but I do think that they did have a chance to maybe win some more games if they had a strong leader like Miles on the team. I feel like he was definitely a scorer for the team, and he could even get 10 buckets. That converts to another 20 points. And I know they did have a tough schedule, but I think that they could have maybe converted, not a lot, but maybe 1, 2, 3 wins here or there for the Bears. So guys, after the season did conclude, it was announced that Coach Russ Pennell would take over as the new head coach for the men's team. What do you think he can accomplish as the new basketball coach? Do you think that he'll be able to be more successful than Williamson or Finley was?
The sky's the limit. It's the limit for Coach Pennell. I say this because the expectations are very high for him, being that he was kind of a big name like Corliss. Well, not as big as Corliss was, but a lot of people know his name. So they're going to look at him to come in and get wins, obviously, because we haven't had a lot of wins when Corliss was here. So it's going to be high expectations for him to come in and produce wins for UCA.
Yeah, I think Pennell's going to be one of the best coaches in UCA history. I mean, like you said, the expectations are high, but at the same time, he has a strong record. I mean, he's went to the Sweet 16 when he was an interim coach with Arizona, and he's coached in the WNBA. I think in his time here, he could possibly take a Southland Conference championship, and because he seems like a smart guy and he recruits good players from what I've seen so far, and I just feel like he's going to put together a strong class while he's here and be a good coach.
What I've heard from his press interviews, I feel like that he's going to do wonders for this basketball team. He's not only focused on the basketball side of things and converting wins, but he's also focused on the academic side as well. And I think they go hand in hand. It's called student athlete for a reason, and I don't think you can have these guys just slacking in the classroom and just thinking that they can get away and play basketball. I also think the other major difference is he's going to be a really disciplined coach. He's not going to let anyone just slide through, and I feel that the more that the coach is disciplined, the players will have respect for him, respect for the coach, and even though he might be tough, I think the rewards will come.
Right. He brought in some good players that were like at the top of their game in their respective states, such as Jordan Howard, who was out of Arizona, and he led the state in scoring with 25.6 points per game. So he brought in some big names, and I hope that they can, kind of get their chemistry together. And 3 players play with him at his former school, so I hope that kind of,
converts over and he
right.
helps out over here. So moving on, after Coach Pennell was announced as the new head coach, he said that he would only be keeping 1 player on the roster, who was Ethan Lee. What do you think this was a wise move by him?
I was kind of surprised actually to hear that news, because that's something I've never seen at this school before, is the whole team getting sent
Kicked
home.
off, yeah.
But it's only a wise move if the players that he brings in produce wins. Like I say, the big thing about the topic of UCA men's basketball is wins. So if he can bring in wins, it's a wise move. But people will question that if he doesn't produce wins like he should.
Yeah, I feel like it was a wise decision. The team last year didn't really bring anything on the court or off the court. They had low GPAs, and they didn't really play as a team. I heard that he cut a lot of players because their character wasn't very good. So I feel like that was probably a good move for the whole state of the team.
I actually spoke to Coach Russ Pennell and Brad Teague via email and personally asked them what was the reasoning behind cutting so many players off the team. And they both specifically said to me that it was purely academic reasons. I understand that there might have been a couple of academic issues, but to have a whole team pretty much have academic issues, I feel like it's a pretty touchy topic. There might be character issues, and that might have been the way to slide through it. I mean, I'm not saying anything, I don't know, but I think it was just a little bit iffy that they had all of these players had academic issues. I don't know what you guys think, but
right, like I said before, it was the discipline on the court was kind of obvious. You could see players getting frustrated with each other. You know, one player is leaning over to the coach, telling him to take one player out of the game. They're getting, like, the chemistry, like I said before, turnovers, unnecessary turnovers because they're not comfortable with each other, and one player wants to score more than others. So I think discipline played a big part in that, even despite of what he may said about academics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whenever they honored the student athletes for their GPAs and stuff, I only remember one player from the basketball team getting above a 3.0. So I can see where the grade point average thing comes from.
Where I do feel really bad for is TJ. He was one of the players that actually had to redshirt this season that had just got here. So he sat out a year, watched the Bears play, get to learn their structure and their style of play, and all of a sudden now he's been released as well. I think that's really tough on him. Now he's got to find another school after he's transferred here to become a Bear. What do you think that was fair for him?
I don't think it was fair. I think they could have at least told him ahead of time before he actually came here that they were going to be, you know, hiring a new coach. So be aware, he might not want the same players as the previous coach did. So I think they could have at least let him know that beforehand.
Well, I guess it all depends on when the signing period is. I mean, April 16th is supposed to be the signing period, so he may have already been signed by the time that they announced that Finley was going to be the interim coach. I mean, because Williamson announced in August that he was leaving, so I guess I can see that. But at the same time, it's like, well, Corliss Williamson hasn't really done a good job here, so maybe they could have. I mean, maybe he could have seen that and was like, okay, well, maybe I need to choose somewhere else. So.
I actually got to sit down and speak to Ethan Lee earlier today and discuss some of these issues with him. So we're going to go out to Ethan Lee right now. So you'll be finishing up your freshman year at UCA. How would you evaluate your first season?
My first season, I actually enjoyed my first season. I wish we could have won many more games, but that's just the way it happens.
And how do you think your UCA men's basketball team performed as a team?
I think we performed all right. I mean, we didn't get the wins that we wanted to in our win column, but things went as planned, I guess.
So was this what you expected from your freshman year of college?
I mean, I wish we could have won a few more games, but experience-wise, I'm glad.
So you averaged 16 minutes a game, and you were had the fifth highest field goal percentage with .464. Was this what you expected for yourself?
Yes. Really, I was just expecting to come into the team and bring anything that I could to the table to help win.
And was college basketball what you expected?
It's a lot different from high school. Like everyone's faster, stronger, and more physical, and it's a lot to adapt to.
So the UCA men's basketball team recently appointed a new head coach in Russ Pennell. Have you had any meetings with him so far?
Yes, I actually got the chance to work out with him and talk about the future team.
And what about on a personal scale? What's he like as a guy?
I like him a lot. It seems like he values our education and also winning.
So Coach Russ Pennell has said multiple times you can't just play on the court and not get good grades. They've got to go hand in hand. How do you keep your grades up?
Well, I give a certain amount of time towards my grades and a certain amount towards basketball, so it kind of evens out. So one thing is not like over the other, so it kind of equal.
So how important is schooling to you?
Schooling is everything to me. Like I believe that without education, you can't go far in this life today.
And do you think there's enough emphasis on schooling for college athletes?
Yes, I really do. I think that coaches these days emphasize the actual word student athlete.
And so moving on to look at the team next season, Coach Russ Pennell recently, when he first got here, released 12 of the 14 players at the start. Have you met any of the new players coming in so far, and what are they like?
Yes, I actually got the chance to play some pickup basketball with them. They all seem like pretty nice guys. They also seem cool and smart, and I think I'll really like them.
And what are you most looking forward to next year?
What I want to accomplish for next year is to compete better in the Southland Conference.
So if we take a look at the women's team, I know we're talking about Bears basketball, but if we take a look at the women's team, this is only their head coach, Sandra Rushing's second season for the Bears, and we've already seen how much success the women's basketball team has had. Do you think that when Russ Pennell comes in, that he's going to do the same with the men's basketball team?
I would say yes because of the discipline thing, but Coach Rushing came into a team that was kind of already put together. You know, Courtney Duver, Micah Rice, they were already like playing together, so they didn't have a problem with chemistry. The thing with Coach Pennell is he's bringing in an entirely new team, so I think it's going to be kind of tough trying to mimic what Coach Rushing did. So
yeah, Pennell has talked about how some of the new recruits are actually getting together already, and trying to build chemistry, and I think that's a good thing. And Pennell said he's going to change up the philosophy of this team. Before they were pretty offensive heavy, but he said that he's going to change them into more of a defensive team. So it's going to be a similar style to Coach Rushing. So I think that'll be good for this team.
Well, I did hear in one of his press conferences when he first did get here that he said that teams don't win just on offense. You need to have a defense, and I think that's where men's basketball team has struggled. They can shoot and they can score, but once the ball gets back down the other end, they struggle defending, and I think that's exactly what the men's basketball team does need. What do you think?
Right, there were a lot of high-scoring games this year, but they still couldn't stop the other team from getting points. Like I said, they averaged 74.7 points per game, but they allowed 81.4. So defense was a big part of their non-success, I could say, I guess.
Yeah, and they gave up a ton of points in the first half too. Like if you look at the splits from the first half to the second half, there's a huge difference in how many points they're giving up in the first half as opposed to the second half, and they're not nearly scoring as many points in the first half as they should be.
Well, I think that's a major difference in the women's and men's basketball. I feel like the men, they come out slow and they appear tired and like they're not energetic and they're not really excited to be out there, and then they're always chasing in the second half, and then we've seen such big deficits. Whereas the women's basketball team, I feel like they come out guns blazing, really want to be there and want to win. Then we sometimes do see them die a bit near the end, or the other team gets a burst of energy. But I think the men, their main problem is they need to stay consistent. They fluctuate so much throughout the season and in a game that they can't be doing that, especially when they're going to be playing like bigger teams in the Southland Conference.
One thing I can say about the Sugar Bears is every player on that team knew that Courtney Duver, that she's going to get her touches. So, but the difference with the men's basketball team, like you don't know who's going to do what at any given time. It's like one guy wants to shoot this time, the other guy wants to shoot this time. We all know that LaQuentin Miles is like, he carries that team, but I don't think that his teammates kind of accepted that role, their smaller roles. So.
Yeah, and you saw like several times there was people taking ill-advised shots that should never have been taken, and a lot of times it was missed, and they just went down the court, passed it maybe once or twice, and then shot. So there's a lot of messed up stuff about that, like not great chemistry-wise.
Yeah, I think everyone on the team played as an individual. I don't think there was a lot of team spirit. I think everyone wanted to shoot and wanted to score and wanted to get their own statistics up. I feel like the Bears, their main trouble is they need to play together. And if they don't play together, they're not going to get these wins. And we're going to see exactly the same thing that has happened in previous seasons. If they want to change the winning streak for the Bears, they have to go and be a team. And I feel like Russ Pennell bringing in all these new players, they're going to have to bond because they've got no new players that are coming back. So they're not going to have a little Quinton Miles that everyone knows can score for the team. So they're going to have to find either someone new or share the ball around to score some points.
Right. It seemed as if they were more focused on who can do the best dunks and warm-ups than kind of, working on defensive slides and things. And then that showed in the game. Many people are trying to get, like, highlight plays, and then when they don't do well, they go down the court and kind of pout about how they just missed a shot instead of getting on defense, and there's a layup just went past you. So I think that's kind of – defense needs to be a big priority this upcoming season.
I think it will be, too. I mean, Pennell's addressed it, and it's just kind of weird seeing a team that UCA has built over the past few years and this team coming together now. It's just a little different for me, like you said earlier, and I feel like things are about to change for this program.
One notable difference that I wanted to say was in this new recruiting class that is signed on the first day of National Signing Day, Russ Pennell hasn't signed anyone from Arkansas, which I think is one of the first times in history. What do you think about this? Do you think that he was a little bit biased in not picking anyone from Arkansas and going out? I mean, he's got Otis, who's a new recruit from Canada. So, I mean, he's gone wide and far to try and search for a good team. Do you think that will show?
Like I said before, Jordan Howard out of Arizona led the state in scoring with 25.6 points per game, and Otis Iyekapoler, he averaged 28 points per game and 17 rebounds. So I feel like you have to go out and look for the best talent available. You can't just minimize yourself to looking for players in Arkansas, because what we've seen in the last 4 seasons, that hasn't worked. So a change is maybe what we need.
Yeah, I think it was good that he didn't go in Arkansas necessarily, because he said he had pockets all over the country, and I mean he even pulled somebody out of Canada, so that's pretty cool. And he coached in Arizona for several years with Arizona State and Arizona, and with the Phoenix Mercury. So he has a lot of ties there, and he said he had a lot of ties all over the country. So I feel like Arkansas wasn't necessarily a stomping ground for him.
What I think was ironic is the one person that he did keep on the team, Ethan Lee, is from Camden, Arkansas. So they are going to have one person from Arkansas, but here's the returner. What part do you think Ethan Lee's going to play on this team by being a returner?
I think he's gonna, bring a little experience of the school maybe, but other than that, he was only on the team for maybe a year or so.
Yeah, he's only a freshman.
So he's only gonna bring maybe his year of experience and what he learned that didn't work, and maybe his ideas on how they can make things better. So
yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like he's gonna help bring experience. He's gonna help in leadership. Like he knows the campus, like he said, and he's just gonna help bring these guys in as best as he can under his wing and hopefully show some leadership. I mean, he's not going to be the oldest guy on the team, but he's certainly going to be the one that's familiar with the school and how everything goes around here.
So when I've spoken to him previously, he's told me that when he did meet these recruits and they had a shoot around and they just hung out together, everyone seemed to get along really well. Compared to last year's team, everyone seemed to get along, but they did their own thing. And I think that showed on the court when everyone played as an individual, whereas I think off the court, this team, they were hanging out, and he said these guys really seem really cool, and he thinks the team is going to be a stronger bond off the court, which I think will transfer to on the court. Do you think that will happen as well?
Hopefully. I hope they can get in, in the gym and get a couple of pickup games, fill out each other's play and everything, and with them hanging out already, that's a good thing. That'll build chemistry really, really quickly, being that the season doesn't start till later on in the year, so yeah. I think that kind of helps to get kind of that bond going earlier.
I think they apparently already have a group message going on, so they're definitely going to keep in contact with each other, and hopefully they might be able to get a few games to pick up going on, even though everyone does come from Arkansas and not from Arkansas, so it's going to be hard to get here. I think that this will be really good for the team. So guys, do you think any of the released players that the coach panel got rid of will come back to haunt UCA?
Well, I looked earlier, and of the 11 players that are gone, none of them have signed yet. But of the people who are gone now, I feel like two names stand out to me, and that's Jalen Jackson and Fabian Glasgow. Fabian had a pretty good defensive post game. If he can develop some offensive game and get his grades up, I feel like he's going to be a pretty good player. And for Jalen Jackson, if he can play defense and be more selective with his shots, I feel like he's going to be pretty good too. And of those two, I'd say Jalen Jackson's probably the one that's going to haunt UCA the most.
Right, I agree with you on that Jalen Jackson. He was third in scoring on the team, so I feel like if he can find another school and maybe, get his discipline up, because he was kind of one of those players that was, didn't want
quite a hothead, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a young guy, so if he can keep his grades up, because he was one of those players also that didn't play because of grades his first year. So I think if he can be disciplined and take smart shots, he can be the one that hunts UCA in the future.
I feel like Jalen's major problem was that Jalen always thought Jalen was right, and he didn't want to go any other way. So when he wasn't getting playing time, there's been stories that he's had a bit of controversy with Coach Finley, and I think this might have been another reason why, particularly he was released. Who I'm going to miss most is Fabian. I spoke to Fabian earlier in the season, and he did tell me that he did have academic issues last semester, but this semester he was working on fixing them. So I think he was a little bit disappointed, because he really did enjoy UCA and did want to stay. But I think he was only a freshman, and I think he had a real strong defense, and he was a real strong player, especially under the bucket, blocking out some of those other teams. So I'm really sad. I think I'm going to miss him the most.
Yeah, definitely. Fabian seemed like he was getting a block or two every game, and he was really the staple for that defense, and he was one of the only defensive players from that team, and now he's gone. So I feel like he will be missed in the future.
I just hope that whatever team they go to, they don't play UCA in the future, because they're going to have a kind of a
vengeance against them. So now that we do have this revamped roster, where do you think predict that the Bears will finish next season?
If they can, pick up the defense as we talked about earlier, I think they can finish maybe in the middle or, towards the top of the pack. But it's hard to say that now, not seeing where they are as far as chemistry-wise. So.
Yeah, I look to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I mean, they're a relatively young program. They've only been around for a few years, and last year they were not that great, but they had such a young team that it really showed this year in their improvement. So you look at UCA's team that's coming up, they have a young team relatively, and I feel like they're going to turn it around next year. But this year, I see them finishing right outside the Southland Conference tournament. I mean, they're not eligible because of the academic progress rate for this next season, but I feel like they can really they'll show signs of being good in the future. But right now, I just feel like they're going to be the bottom of the pack.
I differ from that. I think they're honestly going to finish about 5th. Don't think we can expect too much from Coach Pennell, because it is his first season, and I mean, he has got a full new team that he has to try and get to work as a team. But I think they will definitely have an improvement on last season. Do you agree with that?
One thing I can say is I just want to ask fans to come out and support the team, because this past year there were times where there were like no fans in the seats, and I think that kind of took away the confidence that the team did have. So I just hope that fans see that it's a new coach and he's trying to bring a new flavor to the team, and they come out and support.
So if you had to pick one bold prediction for the Central Arkansas basketball team next season, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to go against my previous statement. I'm going to say they're going to finish in the top 5 in the Southland. They have a lot of strong recruits. Otas IAK Polar is 28 points, 17 rebounds in Canada. That's crazy. And then Jordan Howard, I've seen some videos of him, and he's got some really nice handles, and he can score too. Like, this team has a lot of different players that, like Thatch Unruh, he can shoot. They just got a bunch of different people that I think is going to mesh well together and bring a lot of stuff to the table for this team.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you in top 5, but I'm going to go further and say top 3 maybe, because
wow, that's a very bold prediction right there.
Prediction. They have a combination of guards and forwards that, looking at them on paper, they look really well. So I hope that from what I see on paper, that kind of goes to the court as well.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be a bold prediction by me, but I think the team is going to be a lot faster and stronger than they were last season, because especially if Russ Pennell's talking about they want a big defensive team and you need to really work on defense, they have to be real fast up and down that court, because as everyone knows, basketball is quite an enduring sport, especially if you're out there for a while and you're running from one end of the court to the other. So I feel like they're going to have to be a lot faster, and I think a lot of strength and conditioning in the off season for sure.
Well, I mean, defensive teams can wear down other opposing teams as well. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that they need to have a team where they can run up and down the court as much as they need a strong defensive team, because if you're using up all the shot clock, then and you're giving the other team no chances, what is their confidence going to look like at the end of the game?
Well, I mean, I was just saying in the sense that if they need to be quick to get back down the court, I feel like last season one of the major factors in losing was we got the ball and we scored, and we were so happy that we scored. And then all of a sudden the ball's down the other end of the court and we're chasing after him. And you saw Coach Finley saying, hurry up, get down the other end of the court. But they were too caught up in the dunk that they just did for their highlight tape that they're going to make now. So, yeah, I definitely think that they're going to have to be quicker. And I feel like they're going to have a lot of strength and conditioning, and that Russ Pennell is going to be pretty tough on them this season. Do you think he's going to be tough?
I think it's going to be very tough, because looking in the past, teams weren't disciplined enough to, get the job done. So he's going to be very tough on them to get their defense going. And when we score, act like you've done it before, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't celebrate too much over a score, because it's time to play defense. And if he's going to focus on defense, I don't think he's going to care too much about them dunking the ball or hitting a three or something like that. It's more about getting back and guarding them and stopping them from doing the same to you, because the crowd, they feed into dunks and threes and everything, but when the other team dunks, that kind of brings them right back down. So.
Especially if you're the one getting dunked on. If we're getting dunked on, I feel like the crowd, they're not going to come like they did this season again. So what do you think? They're going to be tougher?
Yeah, I think so. And I just want to go back on what you said with the crowd. Like, it seemed like those guys, like, every time they scored, it was like for them. I mean, we didn't really have a crowd for them to, like, get hyped up about. So it was just putting highlight tapes for them. But I do feel like Pennell will toughen things up around here. He said that he's not going to let people walk in to his practice with like NBA stuff on. So, and he's going to say, or he said that he's going to have the players represent UCA anywhere they go. So I feel like that already says a strong statement about how tough he can be.
Well, thank you, Greg and Andy, for both joining me. I'm Kelsey Williams, and that's been another special episode of Channel 6 Scoreboard.